I was sitting across from my husband in a coffee shop in Cranford, New Jersey, and he was calmly explaining that everything I knew about our marriage was a lie. Those Saturday construction site visits that ran long? At least 2 a month, he was driving to Lansdale, Pennsylvania to spend the day with his 14-year-old daughter. A daughter I never knew existed. The business trip to Pittsburgh last March? He took his secret daughter on a college campus tour at Penn State. The weekend his mom was supposedly sick and he drove to Philly? His mom wasn't sick. He was at his daughter's 8th grade graduation. Every milestone. Every soccer game. Every parent-teacher conference. He was there, living a double life so complete and so careful that I never once suspected a thing. And the only reason I found out? $102,000 was missing from our savings account. But let me take you back to the beginning so you can understand how I got here. Quick thing before we dive in. If you're new here, we narrate the wildest real stories people have shared online. New video every single day. Hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Now, let me tell you everything. I'm Elaine, I'm 33, and I work as a senior claims adjuster for a mid-size insurance company out of Newark. It pays about $82,000 a year, and I'm good at it. I've always been good with numbers, good with details, good at spotting when something doesn't add up. Which makes what happened to me almost embarrassing, honestly, because apparently I couldn't spot the biggest lie happening right under my own roof. I met Marcus in the summer of 2020. We matched on Hinge. His profile said project manager at a commercial construction firm, originally from Philly, no kids, never married. That last part mattered to me. I'd just come out of a 5-year relationship with a man who had 2 kids from a previous marriage, and I'd sworn to myself that next time, I was finding someone starting fresh. Same as me. No baggage, no custody schedules, no bitter exes, showing up at brunch. And Marcus checked every single box. I should have wondered why everything lined up so perfectly, but I didn't. I was just relieved. He was smart, funny, stable. Made about $90,000 a year. On our 3rd date, he told me he had a retirement account and 0 credit card debt, and I remember sitting there at this Thai place on Bloomfield Avenue thinking this man is an actual adult. We moved in together after 8 months. Got engaged after 18. Married in October 2022 at the Grounds for Sculpture in Hamilton. 40 guests. My mother cried. His mother flew in from Philly and told me she'd been waiting years for him to find someone like me. And the whole time, she knew something I didn't. From day one we were aligned on the big stuff. Kids, 2 ideally, starting around 32 or 33. A house in a good school district. Total transparency with money. We opened a joint savings account 3 months after the wedding. $2,500 a month from me, $3,000 from him. Shared spreadsheet, color-coded tabs, the whole thing. 5-year plan. We were going to be those people who did everything right. And for a while I actually believed we were. The first 2 years were genuinely good. We traveled. We had game nights with our friends Priya and Dev 2 blocks away, which usually just turned into Dev and Marcus arguing about the Eagles while Priya and I drank wine in the kitchen. Marcus worked late sometimes, but construction is like that. We fought about normal stuff. Wet towels on the bed. Me being controlling about the grocery budget, which, okay, I admit I can be a little intense about Costco spending. We always talked it out. I truly believed we had something solid. And the whole time there were cracks everywhere that I just couldn't see. The house hunt started September 2025. I'd been stalking Zillow for months, like embarrassingly often, refreshing it during conference calls at work. And when the Colonial on Maple Ridge Drive in Westfield came on the market at $549, I nearly lost it. 4 bedrooms, finished basement, actual backyard with grass, top 15 school district in the state. Our savings had hit about $114,000 by my calculations. Between that and our income, we could handle the down payment with room to breathe. Marcus seemed excited. He came to both showings. Talked about which room would be the nursery. Squeezed my hand in the kitchen with the quartz countertops and the farmhouse sink and said, "Babe, this is the one." We put in an offer that weekend. Accepted. Everything was falling into place. And that's exactly when everything fell apart. I handled most of the mortgage paperwork because Marcus hated forms. Fair enough. I'd pull up accounts, screenshot balances, fill in numbers. But the lender needed official bank statements sent directly from the institution. The pre-approval came back flagged. The underwriter called me on a Tuesday afternoon. Actually, wait, it might have been Wednesday because I remember I had my weekly team meeting right before, and I was still annoyed about it when she called. Anyway, she said there was a discrepancy in our savings documentation. I laughed. I said that's impossible. I track every penny. She said the current balance was $11,412. I logged into the account right there on the phone with her, and I swear the numbers on the screen didn't make sense for like a full 10 seconds. $11,412.17. I scrolled through the transactions. Dozens of outgoing transfers I'd never seen. 2,000 here. 3,000 there. Some months, 5,000. All going to an external account I didn't recognize. The transfers started March 2023, less than 6 months after we opened the account. I told the underwriter I'd call her back. Sat at my desk with the door closed and went through every single transfer. Made a spreadsheet, because that's what I do when I'm losing it. I organize things into rows and columns like that'll make them make sense. Spoiler, it doesn't, but it's better than screaming. The total was $102,800 over 22 months. My first thought was gambling. Second was drugs. Third was an affair. I sat with those possibilities for 2 hours. I think I ate a granola bar at some point, one of those Nature Valley ones that gets crumbs everywhere, and I remember thinking, why am I eating right now? Then I drove home, put the denial letter on the kitchen table, and waited. He walked in around 6:30. Saw the letter. Sat down across from me. I said, Marcus, where is our money? Very calm. My hands were shaking so hard the paper was rustling against the table, but my voice came out flat and steady like I was asking him to pass the salt. I don't know how I pulled that off. He closed his eyes, took this long breath through his nose. And then he said, Elaine, I need to tell you something I should have told you a long time ago. Marcus has a daughter. Her name is Zoe. She's 14 years old. She lives in Lansdale, Pennsylvania with her mother Keisha, who Marcus dated in college. They were together about a year. She got pregnant. Marcus was 21. He says he wanted to be involved, but Keisha's family pressured her to cut him out. There was a paternity test, a custody dispute, and Keisha got full custody. Marcus got a visitation schedule he barely used because every interaction with her family was, in his words, hostile. When Zoe was about 5, Keisha remarried, and things stabilized. Marcus started seeing Zoe more. Every other weekend, some holidays. But he never told a single person in his new life about her. Not his Jersey friends. Not coworkers. Not me. And the reason he gave me is something I will never forget. He said, and I'm quoting him exactly because these words are just stuck in my head permanently. He said, because every time I told a woman about Zoe, they looked at me different. Like I was damaged goods. Like I came with complications. He said 3 relationships ended specifically because the woman didn't want to deal with a man who had a kid. He said when he met me and I told him about my ex and how I never wanted that situation again, he panicked. He was already falling for me. He couldn't stand losing me over something he had no control over.
So he lied.
He lied on his Hinge profile. He lied on our first date, and our 10th, and the night he proposed, and the day we stood in front of our families and made vows. He lied every single day for 6 years. And I hadn't even heard the worst part yet. The money was for Zoe's college fund. A 529 plan in her name. He said Keisha didn't have the resources to save for college, and Zoe was a straight-A student, honors track, wanted to be a veterinarian. He'd been contributing since before he met me, but when we combined finances, he just kept the transfers going from our joint account. He said he always intended to tell me. He was waiting for the right time. I asked him when exactly the right time would have been. He had nothing. Just sat there. I asked him if he understood that he stole from me. Not just money. He stole our future. That house. The nursery. The life we were building. Over $100,000 of our shared savings funneled to an account I didn't know existed for a child I didn't know existed for nearly 2 years. He started crying. Said, I know what I did. Said he loved Zoe and he loved me and he felt trapped between those two things. Said he was terrified of losing his daughter and terrified of losing his wife, so he just kept lying because as long as nobody knew, nobody could make him choose. I got up from the table, went to the bedroom, packed a bag, drove to my sister Michelle's apartment in Hoboken. I didn't cry until I hit the turnpike. Then I cried so hard I had to pull over at a rest stop near exit 14 and sit there for like 20 minutes.
Couldn't stop shaking.
There was a Cinnabon sign blinking across the parking lot, and I just stared at it while my whole life rearranged itself in my head. And the thing that hurt most, I realized, wasn't even the money. It was the fact that I didn't even know who I was married to. The next few days, I told everyone. Michelle was furious. Said this wasn't just lying, this was financial fraud, call a lawyer yesterday. My mother had a more complicated take. She said what he did was wrong, but that man clearly loves his daughter, and you can't fault a father for that. Which honestly kind of pissed me off at the time, but I get what she meant now. Priya said she'd personally throw Marcus's stuff out the window if I gave the word. Marcus texted constantly. Long messages.
He was sorry. So sorry.
He wanted to show me the 529 statements. He wanted me to know Zoe was a real person, a good kid, who deserved college. He sent me a photo of her. Soccer uniform, grinning at the camera, and she had Marcus's exact smile. That same slightly crooked grin. I had to put my phone face down on the counter because looking at her made me feel something I was not ready to feel. Not even close. But that photo did something to me, even though I didn't want it to. After 4 days, I agreed to meet him at a coffee shop in Cranford. Neutral territory. I got there early and ordered a flat white that I didn't drink. I told him I had questions, and he was going to answer every single one honestly, or I was calling a divorce attorney that afternoon. And that brings us to the moment I told you about at the start. What I learned in that conversation kept me up for 3 straight nights. Every detail about those construction sites, the Pittsburgh trip, his mom being sick, all of it was a cover for his life with Zoe. The qualities I loved most about Marcus, his devotion, his reliability, his follow-through, were the exact same qualities that made him such an effective liar. He was devoted to his daughter the same way he was devoted to me. He was a wonderful father. He was also a man who deceived me on a fundamental level for 6 years. I still can't fully wrap my head around how both those things are true at the same time. I asked about Keisha. He said they co-parented fine, that she knew about me, that Zoe knew about me. I said, what does Zoe know? He said she knows Daddy got married, and his wife doesn't know about her. He said Zoe understood and never held it against me. And something about that, a 14-year-old girl being told she's a secret, understanding it, accepting it. I don't know, that just gutted me in a way I can't really explain. A kid shouldn't have to carry that. No kid should ever have to be somebody's secret. I went back to Michelle's and didn't talk to Marcus for a week. I consulted a divorce attorney. Not to file, just to understand my options. She said in New Jersey joint account money belongs to both parties, so technically Marcus had the right to withdraw, but the deception could factor into equitable distribution. I ran the numbers because of course I did. Without that $102,000 we couldn't afford Maple Ridge. Couldn't afford anything in our target area. Our down payment was gone. Our timeline was destroyed. Then I did something I probably shouldn't have. I looked up Keisha on Facebook. Profile was mostly private, but I could see her cover photo with Zoe at a beach somewhere. Zoe looked so much like Marcus it almost hurt. One public post from last June showed Zoe with a certificate from an academic achievement ceremony. Keisha's caption said, so proud of this girl who works harder than anyone I know. Comments from family members and emojis, the whole thing. All very normal, very real. I sat there staring at my phone in Michelle's kitchen at like 1 a.m. thinking this child is a person. She has a life. She has a father who loves her enough to risk his entire marriage so she can go to college. And I hated myself for that thought because it felt like letting Marcus off the hook. But I couldn't unthink it. Once it was there, it just stayed. After the week of silence, I called Marcus and said I wanted to try couples counseling before making any decisions. He agreed instantly. Didn't even let me finish the sentence. We started with Dr. Anand in Westfield. First session was brutal. I laid out everything. The lies, the financial betrayal, the secret life. All of it just dumped on the table. Dr. Anand said something that session I still think about constantly. She said, Marcus, you told yourself a story that you could only be a good father by being a dishonest husband. And that story cost both of the women in your life the chance to be treated with full respect. Keisha deserved a co-parent who wasn't ashamed to acknowledge his family. Elaine deserved a partner who trusted her enough to tell the truth. And Zoe deserved a father who didn't make her into a secret. Marcus just sat there with tears running down his face. And I wanted to hold his hand and scream at him and walk out, all at the same time. I just sat there gripping the armrest of this leather therapy chair instead. For sessions and now. Things I've learned. Marcus's fear of rejection around fatherhood goes back to his own dad, who left when Marcus was 7 and never came back. He's been terrified his entire life of becoming the father who disappears. And the messed up thing is that in trying so hard not to be absent, he made his daughter invisible. Dr. Anand says this doesn't excuse it, but it explains the emotional logic. I guess I can see that, even if it doesn't make me feel any better. Marcus asked me if I'd be willing to meet Zoe. He said she'd been asking about me, that she knew things were bad between us, and she felt responsible. A 14-year-old girl feeling responsible for her father's lies. That wrecked me. I said not yet, but I asked him to show me more. He pulled up videos on his phone. Zoe doing a biology presentation about marine ecosystems, very serious, pointing at slides. Zoe playing center midfielder. Zoe singing happy birthday to Marcus's mom at a party I didn't know happened. She seems like a really good kid. And watching those videos, I realized something. My anger at Marcus and my feelings about Zoe are two completely separate things, and I've been tangling them together because it was easier than dealing with them one at a time. Then something came out in therapy that made everything more complicated, because apparently that's possible. The college fund isn't just Marcus's money. Keisha's been contributing about $300 a month too. Between both of them and market returns, the 529 has about $140,000 now. Enough for a good state school, maybe more with aid. Dr. Anand asked Marcus if he would have found a different way to fund it without access to our joint account.
He was quiet for a long time.
Like uncomfortably long. Then he said, honestly, I don't know. And that honesty, painful as it was, felt like the first real thing he'd said to me in weeks. The Maple Ridge house sold to another buyer last week. I saw the listing update on Zillow and sat in my car in the Wawa parking lot on South Avenue and cried.
Not really about the house.
About the version of my life it represented. The one where my husband didn't have secrets. The one where $114,000 was waiting to become a home for the children we were going to have together. That life is gone now. Whatever I decide, that specific life doesn't exist anymore. Here's where things stand today. I'm still at Michelle's, sleeping on her pull-out couch, which is destroying my back, if anyone's wondering. I've been back to the apartment a few times for clothes. Once we had dinner together, ordered from that Indian place on Elm Street, and it felt almost normal. And that almost normal scared me more than anything, because I don't want to slide back into a life built on lies just because the tikka masala was good, and he remembered to get extra naan. I told Marcus if we have any chance, I need 3 things. 1. Complete financial transparency going forward. Every account, every statement, every transaction, visible to me at all times. 2. He tells his family and our friends the truth about Zoe. No more secrets. Not a single one. 3. He starts individual therapy on top of our couple sessions, because the lying wasn't just about protecting Zoe. Something deeper is going on with him that made deception feel safer than honesty, and he needs to figure out what that is. He agreed to all 3 without hesitating. He's already told his coworker Brian and our friends Dev and Priya. Dev apparently just said, man, you've been driving to Lansdale every other weekend, and you never once complained about the turnpike traffic? That's how I know you actually love that kid. And despite everything, that made me laugh for the first time in weeks. I haven't met Zoe yet. I'm not ready. Marcus says he understands, but I can tell it hurts him. Here's the thing though. I keep going back to something Priya said. She said the worst part isn't that he has a daughter. The worst part is that he thought you were the kind of person who couldn't love his daughter. He never even gave you the chance. That keeps me up at night. Because she might be right. And if she is, then I lost 6 years not because Marcus has a daughter, but because he was too scared to find out who I really am. He built our entire marriage on the assumption that I would fail a test he never even let me take. I don't know if I'm going to stay. Some days, I think I can rebuild this. Other days I look at that spreadsheet of transfers, and I think I'm out of my mind for even considering it. Dr. Anand says I don't have to decide yet, and the pressure to decide is part of what makes it so hard.
She's probably right.
But I do know this. Whatever happens between me and Marcus, there's a 14-year-old girl in Lansdale, Pennsylvania, who deserves to go to college. Who deserves to not be a secret anymore. And whatever version of my life comes next, I think she might need to be part of it. I just haven't figured out what that looks like yet.